Welcome to episode 147 of Killer Hangover. I'm Beth.
And I'm Bettina.
And this is our Halloween episode.
Which we're so excited about. And we get to record it together.
In person. Oh my gosh. We're so excited about this. Mom?
Yes?
Happy Halloween episode.
Okay. I have to tell you guys, it has taken us a half an hour.
Alright, well.
To get started.
It's been a long time since we've recorded
together.
In person. We record together every week.
And never like this down here. But to start with, we're going to do, because Beth got to drink this by herself. And it
all
looks
on my lonesome.
Really gross right now. But it's
It's the zombie brain shot.
Yeah.
It looks like a zombie brain.
It does. It does. It's curdled milk.
Yeah, the biggest trick with this shot is do not let it sit. Pour it and take a picture of it real fast and then put it down. Because
problem is, it took us 30 minutes to set up. So
this is gonna taste really good. Look at that. That's so cool looking. Okay, cheers, Mom. Happy Halloween.
Cheers.
It's so chunky.
I haven't gotten to the chunks yet.
It does taste really good. It's the Baileys that you chew your shot. Oh God! Oh my God! That is how Bettina died. Oh my God. What is happening? I can't do that thing. Are you gonna puke?
The texture is so gross. Oh, those chunks. Yeah. You're crying. You have to drink that right away because that's terrible.
What? Are you really crying?
I'm crying. God.
You really are crying.
I was choking to death.
On camera. That's the best part. Is you try to like contain yourself, but you're like, I can't breathe. Keep it cool. I want to look good on camera, but I can't breathe.
Curdled Baileys.
Okay, well, Mom, I wanted to give you something for Halloween.
Okay.
But I don't see I got this for you, but I don't see the use of it right now because I don't see. Just here. Happy Halloween, Mom.
Oh. So what do I do with this?
So my good friend Lauren at Barley and Oak made this. It goes on her Stanley cup.
Oh.
I don't even have my Stanley with me.
You have a ghost.
I have a ghost on mine. Gosh darn it. It's so cute. It has a little pink flower in her hair and it says Beth. But this goes on your Stanley and it's the ocean. And it says Mama.
I love it. I
was looking for your Stanley because I was going to put it on there, but I don't think you even brought it, did you?
No, I didn't.
Wow, jeez.
Thank you, sweetheart.
You're welcome. Happy Halloween.
Love it.
Yeah, we gift things on Halloween now, didn't you know?
No.
I gave the boys their boo bags tonight.
I saw
filled
that.
with like slime and candy and stuff. You know, more stuff.
More stuff.
They loved it.
Oh.
My little 5-year-old got up, actually like stood up, walked over and gave me a huge hug. I said, thank you.
Thank you, Mama.
I know. It's just books and puzzles. That's really what it was. Puzzles and books and a surprise mystery toy. Those mystery toy things are so cool. Grandparents, parents, if you're listening, you know what I'm talking about. They open the little things and they don't know what toy is going to be inside. Ugh, they just love those. And all three of them got something totally different this time.
They did.
Usually all three get the same thing, and then they're like, really? Okay, well, anyway.
Are you ready?
Are you ready?
I am.
Well, that wasn't our only cocktail tonight.
No. Oh, no.
We have this pretty thing here. This is Ghost in the Orchard.
Yep.
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 Okay. It's really strong.
Lots of alcohol. Yes.
I'm wondering, because there is no like mixer in it. It's almost like it's a shot.
Yeah, but that's a lot for a shot.
Yeah, it'd be
Yeah,
a
it's got
2.5 ounce shot. I mean, anyway. Okay, so it's 1 ounce of mezcal, 1 ounce of applejack, and a half ounce of Benedictine. And then you put it in a shaker with ice. You shake it all up. And then you stir in a bar spoon of maple syrup, just like a little splash in there for some added sweetness. It is pretty strong. It's called Ghost in the Orchard. I got it on Cosmopolitan. That whole...
Yeah, all right.
Yeah. All right. Okay, ready? Cheers, Mama.
Cheers, sweetheart.
It is so strong. I really only taste the mezcal, though.
I know.
Which I really do like. If you're not a tequila fan, mezcal is very smoky like tequila. I really like it. That aftertaste is so good.
I love mezcal.
It's so smooth. All right, Mom. Are you ready? Yes. I have the true crime this week. You have the paranormal for Halloween. We've had a couple beverages now. And time to set up and reset up and set up again. I can't tell you how many times we've moved those candles from behind Mom's head. Okay, so I got this from a documentary, and I'll go over and share the documentary at the end because I think it is worth a watch. Okay. But our story takes place in Cedar Creek, Indiana. I'm going to set the scene for you. Okay. You know I like to do that. It is Halloween, October 31st, 1963. It was a chilly night in Cedar Creek. Cedar Creek is a small town, one of those everybody knows everybody kind of a town.
Right, okay.
In an article I read describing the town, it said, quote, "The town today is a thriving community with a historical downtown area that offers residents tons of specialty shops, while large Victorian homes dot the rest of the area. Farms cover the outskirts of town."
Cozy.
Hello, cozy Indiana town. So, again, it's October 31st, it's 1963, and a couple, the Thompsons, there's no relation. I mean, there could be, but I don't think so. They pull into their driveway, and they see their 6-year-old son, Tony, sitting in the front yard in his Halloween costume. Fun fact, but some resources did say he was dressed as a frickin' clown.
Oh.
Something doesn't seem right. His mother lifts up the boy's mask, and he just stares blankly. The couple will soon discover inside the home their 17-year-old daughter, Sandy, lay dead, stabbed to death. Investigators will soon find it was her little brother, Tony, who had killed her.
Oh my gosh.
Now, I don't know about you, Mom, but child killers, like...
He's 6 years old?
Mm-hmm. I think there's a show on that, like Children Killers or Killer Children, something like watch. That. No, it's really something that doesn't sit well with me. It really disturbs me. So I found this topic last year and I wanted to cover it, but doing the research on it, it really left my tummy in knots. And I told you, be prepared because this one will leave your tummy in knots. But then I saw a new documentary came out and kind of like gave the complete story. Okay. So I was like, okay, well now I should cover it. It's very fascinating. So Tony's 6 when he killed his older sister, Sandy. Obviously, this is a horrible crime. And he was sent to a mental hospital nearby. Now, leading up to the killing of his sister, there's not much about Tony that we know, excuse me, in his upbringing. At least from the resources I found. There's no history of abuse or anything traumatic happening to Tony. Tony was just different. And he really fascinated, and that sounds really bad, but a lot of doctors were really interested in Tony and very intrigued in him. Especially this Dr. Pleasance. I'm just going to call him Dr. P because I'm really not sure how to pronounce his name. Dr. P. So he works with Tony for years to come. And it seemed like, for majority of the time, Dr. P was Tony's only advocate. Man, that's like really sitting in my throat. Excuse me. He's the only one who really cared for Tony, would speak for Tony, because Tony stopped talking after he killed his sister. He went to the mental facility, stopped talking.
Was it catatonic? Because it just sounds like he was staring.
I understand he was. And his parents are really scared of him. They come to see him, but they don't know what to do with all of this. His parents don't understand why and the how of it. But they do stay in Cedar Creek for a while. All the while, the whole town is consoling them and comforting them in this horrendous circumstance surrounding their daughter's death. Dr. P spends day after day with Tony. Again, he's the only one who really stays by Tony's side. Does that fascinate you though? Like being in the same room as a killer? Like, I would be terrified. But if you put the fear aside, wouldn't that be intriguing to try to get to like why a 6-year-old did that? It's
I don't
scary.
know that a 6-year-old would have an answer. It just.
So according to a government article I read on ncbi.nlm.nih.gov, I'll link it. Quote, average annual rate of 1.2 child perpetrators per million child population. We estimate for the United States as a whole, 74 children per year were homicide perpetrators. Children.
What are they? Is that 18 and under?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we've heard of so many, but 6, though, that's the number that blows my mind right now.
At his trial, Tony received 15 to life with a chance of parole. When that 15 years comes and it's his chance for parole hearing, Dr. P is adamant he go in front of the board and give every reason possible Tony should never be released from the psych hospital.
Oh.
Dr. P is Tony's advocate in the hospital. He doesn't see Tony being able to live among society. Dr. P will go on to say that Tony is, well, he basically says he's not human. He doesn't show any emotion, let alone remorse for what he did. And he's vengeful, he's full of anger, and the doctor just doesn't see anything going well if Tony were to get out.
That's scary.
And this is 15 years later, so yeah. Now this is where the story gets wild. Days leading up to his parole hearing, Tony actually escapes the mental hospital.
Oh.
There is a huge storm causing a lot of the building's mechanics to malfunction. And keep in mind, he went in at 1963, so this is 15 years later.
Mm-hmm. So he's 21.
So it's 1978. So there's not all the cameras and locks and all that kind of stuff that there is now. So this huge storm wiped everything out and he escapes. The whole area goes on alert. There's this big manhunt. And Dr. P, he's a big part of this search because he knows Tony. He'd spent days and days and days and studying this kid. So he wanted... So I wanted to keep this story as dramatic as possible with a big twist. You know? Right? But for my storytelling purposes, I'm not a document... My gosh. I'm a person who drinks on a podcast. You can't talk. I'm not a documentary. So I can't have all this cool stuff and make it movie-like, right? So I have to, for the storytelling purposes, I have to kind of ruin the twist early on.
Okay.
So I'm not going to be as good as a documentary it was. But, so while Tony was in the mental hospital, his parents did come visit him a couple times. Okay. And when they came one time, they told him he had a little sister. They had a baby. Okay. Good. And they actually brought this little girl with them to see him when she was 6. So around 1967, 1968, the little girl came to visit him in the mental hospital. And after this visit is when Tony started showing a lot of super aggression. And he became obsessed with the fact that he had this sister. He just got really creepy.
I can see that.
So Dr. P saw this, and this is when he kind of made his assessment officially, this guy cannot get out of here. cannot be out in society. So now that Tony has escaped, Dr. P is pretty sure Tony, with all of his anger, will try to head to the only other place he'd ever called home, which is Cedar Creek. I mean, where else is this guy going to go? He doesn't know anything else. So no one really takes the doctor serious. Cedar Creek is like 150 miles from where Tony escaped from.
So they're thinking, no way can he get there.
No. But Dr. P takes it serious. I already said that. And he calls the local police of Cedar Creek and tries to warn and give him a heads up, saying, quote, be ready for him. If you don't, it's your funeral. Unquote.
Okay, so the parents haven't moved. They're still in Cedar Creek.
At this point, the parents had moved.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think Tony knew that. That was his only other place he'd ever known home besides a mental facility. He was 6 when he went into the mental facility. Right. And I think his parents just kind of moved on. At this point, actually, his dad had died. And his mom was in town but didn't live near the old house. And I don't think he knew where she lived. But he's heading to Cedar Creek. So they don't know. Well, they assume he's heading to Cedar Creek. But they don't know if he is going to find his mom, if they don't...
Or when he's going to get there.
Or what he's going to do when he's there.
Right.
Maybe he's just going to go and they're going to find him sitting in his house, his old house. Like, they'd have no idea. They just know that he is a danger to society. So, okay, 150 miles. So one officer, Sheriff Charles Cyphers, he believes that Dr. P, though, he believes him, because when Dr. P had called out there and kind of was like, hey, have you heard anything? Have you seen anything weird? That day, actually, Sheriff Cyphers had been called out to the local cemetery. And Sandy Thompson, Tony's sister, who he had killed, her tombstone had been taken.
Taken? Like it's gone?
By. It's not there anymore. So he was like, well, this is just really weird that happened today, and now you're calling me saying that he might potentially be here. Yeah. That's kind of a weird coincidence. So he's like, I kind of believe you, so I'm going to keep an eye out on everything. Oh, by the way, the date is October 31st, 1978. So this is 15 years to the day of the incident.
Halloween.
Yep, it's on Halloween. So you can assume he is in fact in Cedar Creek, but why? We already talked about this. Besides taking his murdered sister's headstone, why is he in town?
That'd be kind of hard to do. If you think about it, those are heavy.
Like, really strong. So Dr. P and Sheriff Cyphers put the town on the lookout. He hasn't been seen, so they're just assuming again at this point that he's there. But maybe he'll go back to his childhood home. Because again, like I keep saying, that was his only other place he'd ever called home. So the doctor and the sheriff head there. The house has been abandoned for a few years. The sheriff knows all about Tony Thompson, at least the rumor of the horror story and everything that had happened there, that a kid killed his sister. I think it's a small town. Everybody probably talked about that. And then, so yeah, here I just talk about how his dad had died and his mom was still living in town with her boyfriend. But since the father's death, the house had sat abandoned. Besides for a few break-ins of local teens trying to see a crime scene, unfortunately. So while they're there around looking at the house, they hear something, and they go and they look, and just in time, they see Tony Thompson himself driving away in a stolen car. So now they know for a fact he's in town.
How does he know how to drive?
That's a really, really good point. I actually thought about that a lot during this research. Seriously. So there's a call out for this vehicle. Dr. P and the sheriff go out and they search for the car themselves. And they're searching, and there's no sign of Tony. It's Halloween. The streets are busy with trick-or-treaters and families and everything else. The evening then starts to die down. People are turning off their porch lights. They're calling it a night. And Dr. P is still searching. He's sick of driving the streets of Cedar Creek, so he parks and he starts walking the neighboring streets of Tony Thompson's old home. He's walking, and then he hears it screaming. Not a normal Halloween boo scream, but like screaming like someone is scared or in pain or injured. He runs towards the screams to discover 2 young children, a boy and a girl, running from a home screaming for help. He knows instantly that this is Tony's doing. So Dr. P, the brave man that he is, I mean, seriously, can you hear the horror music now? Like, of this man. Don't go in there!
Okay. And he's real staunch.
Yeah. So Dr. P goes running into the house, you know. Just like in the movies.
I see him walking.
He discovers Tony trying to wrestle down a young teenage girl. Tony is shoving the girl around and then draws a knife.
Oh my gosh.
Dr. P draws his gun and shoots Tony. Tony is shot a total of 6 times. And then Dr. P goes and comforts this girl on the ground. This girl being Jamie Thompson, Tony's younger sister. That I ruined the twist already before.
Really?
So he had found her.
Holy smokes.
He had found her.
Oh, wait, this is like a horror movie. Then the doctor turns around and he's not there.
No, that's exactly right. So, Mom, how do you know this? She had really been putting up a fight. She had actually been stabbed and really beaten up. She really put up a huge fight. She's a 17-year-old girl.
This guy is strong. He picks up
tombstones. She was lucky enough she was alive because Tony had killed many on his path trying to get to his sister.
Really?
He had been terrorizing his sister all day. Innocently enough at first. So, like, her story was so terrifying because she kept seeing, like, a man, like, following her, and she'd turn and look, and nobody'd be there. Or, like, a car driving, and somebody just, like, staring at her. And she just like, got heebie-jeebies all day long. And he was just super innocent things at first. And then this. So on his terror path to get to Jamie, Tony had murdered her friend Nancy Cyphers. He had hid in the backseat of her vehicle and waited for her to get in. Her death was caused by strangulation. So she was actually, ironically, also the sheriff's daughter. Jamie was the one to find Nancy's body. She had received a very odd phone call from, so this gets a little confusing, but her friend PJ Souls, another 17-year-old girl, called Jamie that evening. And at the end of the call started getting very garbled, and Jamie started seeing like really weird noises, she said, and it was actually PJ being murdered.
Holy smokes.
By Tony.
Mm-hmm.
So
why is he going after these people?
He's looking for his sister. I'm assuming. I don't know. Mom, he's a 6-year-old who killed people. We can't get in somebody's mind like that. Anyway, so she goes over to this person's house because she's like, that call was so weird. So she goes over to this person's house, and that's when she discovered the bodies of her friends. The body was posed. Nancy's body was posed in a bedroom, in the bed, with the stolen tombstone at the head of the bed.
Ew.
Her other 2 friends, John Michael Graham and PJ Souls, were found deceased and in the room as well. But like I said, unfortunately her night is not over because Tony was shot multiple times. And after Jamie was found to be okay, the 2 of them discover that Tony was no longer in the place they originally thought he had fallen from the gunshots. So Jamie was taken to the local hospital, and Dr. P continued his search for Tony. Potentially this boy from all the horror stories around this small town is out killing people. So
why does all of this sound familiar?
The news was on and reporting for people like to stay inside and stay safe. But in the reporting, they claimed that a victim of the killer was being treated at a local hospital, giving away
where
she is.
A bunch of ding-dongs and 70, whatever it
is. It's here at this hospital where Jamie is starting to piece together who this man is. She's starting to, like, figure out... She's starting to piece together, like, what's happening by, like, things she's overhearing and all this kind of stuff. And at the same time, and this is where the documentary was really cool, but Dr. P goes, they get a lead that Tony was at an abandoned elementary school. And so Dr. P goes with the police officers to go check this out, to go try to find Tony. And while he's there is when the officers tell him Jamie is Tony's sister. And she was put up for adoption, and it was closed and sealed documents.
She was. Oh.
Yeah. So, essentially Tony is coming to get his sister. So now Tony's now at the hospital. And upon entering the hospital, he apparently slashes a bunch of cars, tires.
Of course.
So people are trapped there. And then he cuts all the phone lines. And then, this is terrifying, he enters the hospital. Again, can you just hear that Hollywood music playing?
Yeah, I totally can right now.
As Tony Thompson walks the hospital.
I so knew this was Halloween. I'm like, wait. This is a slasher. Halloween. Ding, 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 ding.
Happy Halloween!
It's like,
for those of you thoroughly confused, this was literally just the plot of the movie Halloween. So, Jamie, the sister being Jamie Lee Curtis. Sorry, I locked my screen. I just used the name of the actors that played those characters.
Yeah, I was wondering.
Nancy Cyphers.
When's she gonna let Michael slip?
I did that on purpose because I was like, she's got to be catching on. I could see your brain ticking, so I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna say Michael Myers. Tony Thompson, the actor who played Michael Myers, his name was Tony Moran, and so I was like Tony, and then I wanted Michael Myers to Tony Thompson. Perfect.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, can't you?
The doctor gave it away for me.
Okay, so I was doing this run through with Alex to see if he could catch on. Well, he's a movie buff, so he caught on right away, but that's what gave it away for him. And he's like, start calling him Dr. P from the very beginning, because everybody's going to know that actor, Pleasance. Mm-hmm. Is that how you pronounce it?
I have no idea.
See, I still don't know how to pronounce it, but I do know that. Yeah. PJ Souls was Linda. Jamie Lee Curtis was...
Jamie.
Yeah. Lori in the movies.
That's right. Right. It's still a scary...
Dr. Loomis was the character's name. So, yeah. I just wanted to do something fun. Different.
Good thing I've got some factual
and not
stuff.
A true crime, but I have more information on the movie Halloween. So how many movies do you think there are of the movie Halloween?
Oh gosh. Is there 5?
Your mind's about to be blown. Try again, woman.
10? 20? 15?
13. There are 13 Halloween movies. All of them depict Michael Myers except for the third.
They skip him.
They do. They tried to do something totally different. Michael Myers is depicted in all of them but the third, and that one was called Season of the Witch. Had nothing to do with the Michael Myers story. I have no idea. I think they got so much traction on the Halloween movies that they're like, and it was a good ending after the second movie, where he's bursts into flames, and you're like, oh my god, he's dead. Finally, he's dead. Cool.
He's never
Man, you didn't even let me finish I wrote the whole thing up. Tony's engulfed in flames, captured and sent to Ridgemont Federal Sanitarium, where he remained comatose for 10 years until... No, but so then they did Season of the Witch, and then they went back to the Michael Myers.
Was Jamie Lee Curtis in all of them?
No, she was not. She was not in all of them. And I learned a lot about this. Actually, people who are big Halloween fanatics know that the storyline of the background of these characters has been it's a wackadoodle. So Jamie Lee Curtis has a daughter, gives her up for adoption, and that's the little girl that's in Halloween 4 and 5. That's that's Laurie's character's daughter that
Daughter,
she gave
okay.
up for adoption. Then Michael Myers comes after. That goes mute.
Mm-hmm.
But then Jamie Lee Curtis comes back.
Okay.
So you could count her in, I think, in 10 of the movies. She was only in like 7 or 8 of them, but you can count her in 10 because they did show photos of her.
Yeah.
Like, here's your mom, or here, this was your sister. So people do count her as being in 10, was just a picture. But she quit. She was done with them. But then she was like, wow, this movie's getting so much traction that Killer Hangover Podcast is covering it as a true crime. This was not a true crime. I'm going to reiterate that. Not a true crime. Happy Halloween. I thought that was fun.
No, it was fun, sweetheart. Good thing I caught on.
Mm-hmm. What?
I have some legends. And, of
I
course...
wanted to wear my blanket, but it's hotter than a hootie down here.
And then I have some true stories that friends have told me. I just sent out a message and said, friends, I need
Friends. I need some friends.
I need some haunted stories.
First,
So the first one I'm going to start is from Atchison.
Okay.
So, do you remember Jackson Park?
Yes, I remember Jackson Park, where somebody hung themselves on a prom night.
Yeah, that's the story you've heard. But the story I heard when I was going to school was that, yeah, I was going to cover the Sally house, but I thought, that is in an episode all to itself, and I think we need to go visit it first. During the day.
I will go on any ghost hunt. You know that. But for some reason that place just...
We'll go during the day. And we'll have other people with us.
Okay.
Yeah. And we're not going in the basement.
No. No, because there legitimately was a witch that lived there that like that's facts.
Legit.
Yeah. She had pentagrams on the floor and everything there.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're not going to do Sally. I'm not doing Sally's house right now. This is Molly's Hollow.
Yep, at Jackson Park.
In Jackson Park.
Where I used to go drink.
Who didn't? The story goes that there was a young African American woman.
Yep, I've heard
who
this one
dated
too.
a white guy, and it was in the days that was really frowned upon. And so the townspeople, when they found out about it, they took her and they lynched her in what is now known as Jackson Park. Back then it was just a open field and then some trees. So it is said that supposedly if you're out there, you hear her scream, you see the shadow figure of a woman walking through the trees, all this other stuff. Now, kids have been trying to get into that park to see this, to see whether it's true. We did, when we were in college, try to get into... Molly's Hollow is kind of into the park. Mm-hmm. It isn't just on the outside. It's you really have to go into the park to get to there. And we tried. We got sort of close, but then we were chased out by police.
Wait, is this at night?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I was I've been there during the day several times.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
But this is at night when the park is
You
closed.
didn't say that. I was why are the police chasing you out during the day? What's happening in this park?
Well, you only see it at night and hear her at night. Why? I don't know.
You can still see the tree that they claim.
Yeah.
It's a creepy looking tree. But there's many trees. You're that could be it. That could be it.
That could be it.
That could be it.
Mm-hmm. All right. One summer, while I was in college, I actually did
break in,
work at the park department.
Oh, so you got to go in.
So I was mowing parks on the side of the highways, and at night I was a bartender at the Elks Club. It was a pretty cool summer, actually. But I digress. I often had a job of mowing in Jackson Park, which is you have to agree, it's a great park. There's a lot of trails. The road goes through it. It's a beautiful.
It's a nice park, yeah.
It's a beautiful park, and it's the biggest one in
a lot
Atchison.
of wooded. Yeah, it's a big wooded area. Yeah.
So because I mowed there, I also found ins and outs of how to get into it.
Sure.
So this time when we snuck into it to see if we could hear anything, we actually got in and we got by Molly's Hollow. And after a while, we did hear what sounded like screaming. But now thinking about it,
it's like an animal?
I think we freaked ourselves out by sitting there late at night. I mean, it's, after midnight and you're sitting there in these woods that are surrounding you.
So you didn't hear screaming or you heard screaming? What ghost story is this,
I
Mom?
think we heard screaming, but I think we freaked ourselves out. It could have been an owl.
Yeah.
It could have been an owl attacking an animal. It could have been, a number of things, which I'm sorry, but that's why I call this one a legend. I totally don't believe it.
I don't either, because there's so many different stories to it.
Mm-hmm.
And there's, again, this tree, it could be that tree, it could be this tree. And you're in wildlife, so any noises out there, I'm not hating on it, because it is included in the trolley tour. I mean, it's included on, all Haunted Atchison
And the fact is,
stuff.
You heard it. I heard it way before you.
Oh, everybody's talked about it forever.
It is definitely a legend. But there is no
record of a girl being hung there.
Of a girl named Molly, even, that was hung there.
So where do these stories come from, then?
I don't know. They have to be a little bit of truth. Because they have to be a little bit of truth. I don't know. Maybe there was...
somebody just hears an owl out there all the time and they get scared and they just create some kind of story.
Or maybe there was a young girl, African-American girl, that dated a white boy. And then the story just kind of developed over time. I don't know.
Developed into a horrible, sad terror story. That doesn't even...
I don't know. Moving on to my friend's stories. Okay.
So better than your story?
Yeah. My friend Melissa.
Okay.
Her son was playing checkers in the attic room with his grandfather, where they always played. That was just
kind of... In what attic room? Just in somebody's...
In their house.
Their house. Okay. Mm-hmm. I was like, what house are we in?
In the attic. Molly's house.
You're not setting the scene, Mom. Come on. Beth set the scene.
When the game was over, he wandered downstairs to join his family, who sadly informed him that his grandfather had died an hour ago.
Wait, what? Is this a riddle?
No, it's true. The little boy was upstairs playing.
You didn't say he was little, so...
Her son was playing checkers with his grandfather up in the attic where they always played checkers.
Sure, okay.
All right. After the game was done, he wandered downstairs, I guess thinking his grandfather was going to go to his room or something. He wandered downstairs and the family was all crying and they told him, your grandfather died an hour ago. He was playing checkers with a ghost.
Oh, well, I get that.
Well, I think I have to explain this to you.
No, you didn't tell me he was a little boy. You didn't tell me all the little facts. But that's sad. That's not scary to me. That's sad.
No. Okay. This one, I thought was funny. I just decided that for this episode, I was going to get people's stories. Instead of Googling everything on the internet and whatever, I thought, I'm going to get people's stories. I did not reach out to your sister. But while I was...
She gets freaked out by this stuff.
While I was writing this stuff, she actually messaged me and said, Mom, when I get off of my shift, I need to talk to you. There's a ghost story.
That's
weird. I'm like, okay, perfect timing. Okay.
I think my sister's more of a sensitive than I am. Because when we went on that ghost investigation with her, she was up all night that night. And I can turn things like off. Like I just turned it off and went to sleep, and she was bothered by things all night,
Really?
dreams and everything.
I didn't know that. We were the one that were investigating and
She was too. She was too. She just did it. I don't know, but she was definitely bothered by it.
Wow. Cool. All right.
Cool.
Cool.
Anyway, so what was her story?
Okay. So there was a traveling nurse that worked in the ICU. And of course, she didn't know anybody because she was a traveling nurse. Unfortunately, there was an accident, and there was a young person that was in the room in the ICU that was not going to make it.
Talk louder.
Oh, talk about her.
You
I'm like, I can't tell you.
You keep getting really quiet.
So young person, not going to make it, so her family members were called. The nurse was stationed outside the room, and she was to basically monitor who was coming in and out.
Sure.
So, of course, there was a heaviness to begin with.
I don't know how people have those jobs.
And this elderly man walked up to her, and she goes, "Do you want to go in?" He goes, "No, I don't really have to. I just thought I'd just peek in." He said, "I don't work here now, but I used to. I was a doctor here at the hospital." And she goes, "Oh, okay." He said, "Yeah, and I had a patient actually that died in that room, and it was a young person, and I never got over it. And I think I could have done more. I blame myself for the death, and I just occasionally I just have to come and peek into the room and just, and now I see this going on, and it just it's very heavy. It's a heavy burden to me." Now, this is an elderly man, very put together, and the traveling nurse said, "Well, I'm very sorry for this, and that it's troubling you," the conversation. And he said, "Well, young lady, it was really nice to meet you. Thank you for doing this, and I'm just going to meander on my way home." And she's like, "Okay." So then after her shift, she went down to the nurse's station in the ER. And she goes, "Okay, I'm done." But it was really sad watching that room, and the person passed away, and it was just, that's part of my job I hate. And she said, there was an elderly gentleman that did stop by the room. We had a very pleasant conversation. He's a very nice man. He said he used to work here, and his name was Dr. Jones. That's not his real name. Katie didn't want me to use it. So Dr. Jones.
Dr. P.
Dr. P.
Oh, my candles just went out. Dr. P just blew them out.
And the nurse said, "Oh, that's interesting. Okay, what did he look like?" And she described him perfectly. And the nurse said, "That's really interesting." And the traveling nurse said, "Why?" And she said, "Dr. P died 10 years ago." And it was him. And she said, yes, it was very traumatic. He had a very young patient up there, and he was kind of I don't want to call him lazy, but kind of laid back, okay? And he might have probably been able to do more, but he was just kind of laid back and not too worried about it. And he always criticized himself and had that hanging over his head that he might have been able to save that young person's life.
That's sad.
But it was the perfect, absolutely the perfect description of this doctor.
That's weird. That makes you think, like, how many, I think we've talked about it before, like, how many
people do we pass?
How many ghosts do you pass?
That we don't know.
That you don't know.
Or ghosts.
Yeah. Or even had a conversation with.
They could
Like
just
a
be
basic
wandering.
conversation. She didn't have to say anything, and she would have never known that she talked to a ghost,
No.
essentially.
Mm-mm. And she was a little freaked out when she found
Well,
out.
yeah. Yeah. Especially in places like hospitals where people die or have these energies left behind of something sad like that.
But you don't think of doctors, right? You think of the patients that passed away.
It's true. It's true.
But here was this doctor that
but
I
it
guess
could be
still
it
wanders
could be
the halls.
well, I guess he had a conversation with her, so he's not really residual.
No, he wasn't. It was full body.
Oh, that's
full body,
so weird to me.
Where she could perfectly describe this doctor. And they had a conversation.
That's like planes
crossing.
Like that's like
I know.
He's still living in his time and she's living in hers. And somehow, in some way, shape, or form, they crossed paths. Maybe because of all the energy of the death that was potentially happening in that room or something. That is... Oh, that's so interesting.
It is. It is. It's fascinating.
So you were like dancing around this room with holy water earlier. So far, these stories are not. A grandpa, that's so sweet. And then that one it's sad that's how he's living out his days now.
I know.
With regrets.
It's like how many times does he return there?
It was like unfinished business, like Casper, another movie. But that's what it's sad.
I know.
Okay.
So the nurse that was in the ER, not the traveling nurse, the other one, her name was Jenny. And she actually had a personal story that she also passed on to Katie, who passed on to me. And she said one evening as her husband and her sat at home, the phone started ringing. Of course, they answered it. It was nothing but static.
Oh, these static phone call ones. Oh, my gosh. Okay.
So they hung up. But this continued. This kept going.
What, like the ringing and then static and then ringing and then static?
Ringing and static. And they thought, well, maybe there's something wrong with our phone lines.
Yeah. Maybe the call's not coming through.
First they called the neighbors. The phone worked perfectly, I guess. They called the neighbors, and the neighbors were like, our phones are fine. I mean, I'm talking to you. Our phones are fine. Okay. And then they called the people, AT&T or, whoever was doing the phone lines. And they said, no, let's run the test. No, tests are fine. Everything's fine. They're like, why is this happening? So as soon as they stopped checking, again, the phone rang. And answered it.
Chills.
Again, there's this like nothing but the static and it just a weird feeling. So they hung up and it rang again and it just continued like this. Finally it was like, okay, this is it. We're not answering the phone. We're gonna, this is done. And then it rang again. And this time they both had this draw to the phone. We've got to answer this. So they did, and their nephew was at the other end of the phone, and he said that his father had just died. And it was almost like...
Had he been calling? Did they ask him? Had he been calling?
He hadn't been calling.
That was his first time calling.
But his father had died. And it was like the spirit was trying to communicate.
Or somebody was. Like maybe somebody that was already passed on was like, he's here now. Or, that could be anything.
But it wasn't a living person that was doing it.
No, I agree. But it was like somebody just saying, they're here now. Or like...
Or him, I'm leaving. Or...
Yeah. Again, that's not a menacing, terrible story. That's sad that there's a death, but... So interesting.
And these personal stories to me are just so much fun.
Oh, they're the best.
Okay.
How could somebody not be a believer? I know there's a few of you out there that listen and watch us that are not believers. I'm not saying any names. Tom. But how can you not be a believer? This is so interesting. Or Alex. How could you guys not believe? Our husbands don't believe. there's two planes passing. He's in his time zone and I'm in... And my husband's like...
Say what?
I'm going to go to bed now. You do your thing.
You do your woo-woo thing.
Do your woo-woo thing, yeah.
Okay. In Hutchinson, Kansas, there's a legend, the little boy blue.
Okay,
So supposedly,
I feel like I know this one.
Supposedly, a little boy used to ride his blue bicycle.
Oh, this is sad.
All over, and he was hit by a car.
Terribly sad.
And killed, or hit by a car, ended up in the river and drowned. So whatever story.
Hit by a car and then died.
Yeah, one way or the other. Now, this is nowhere on the internet. I mean, it's very hard to find this story.
The Legend of Little Boy Blue.
Yeah,
I feel like I've only just heard it.
and it's almost like people in Hutchinson know about it, but people outside of Hutchinson don't. I mean, there's very little on the internet. I Googled them. Anyway, a friend of mine who grew up in Hutchinson was the one who told me about this.
Okay.
And so, shout out to you, Brent. He and his group of friends were really into supernatural.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, they would do the Ouija board and stuff, which of course I don't
love it.
But this has nothing to do with Little Boy Blue, but they'd take the Ouija board and they go late at night and they go to the school playground, and they did the Ouija board there.
It's like spirit children.
And one time they both, I mean, all of them got this really bad feeling. Now, he said they would go on a lot of paranormal type adventures, but one person in the group would always like do something so that it seemed like it was a paranormal thing, and then they'd fess up to it. But that night, the Ouija board did move, and they just got this really, really bad feeling that they needed to leave. But they got a feeling that maybe there was a child there.
That stuff is so fascinating to me. Because, one, I've been on many Ouija board experiences. I've never personally made it move myself, okay? Like, me pushing it. But it's moved for me several times. So it's always like, are you doing that? You have to be doing that. You're doing that. And then the other person, you have to just totally trust the person you're doing this with. I have never personally made it move, but I hope my friends didn't do it. But that's a big deal. Like when it actually does move. When you really have full trust and you're like, oh my gosh, this is really moving. It's such a cool thing. The other thing is that Beth's just chatting a lot. It's so fascinating when somebody feels like there's an old man here, or I just feel like there's a kid here. It's so hard to explain because I've had that experience.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Where we will be investigating somewhere and I'm like, oh, there's a child here. And I have this instantaneously, I'm just like, I get down to like a kid level. And again, Alex is like, what are you doing?
Why are you kneeling?
There's a child here. And he's like, it's 2 a.m. Why is there a kid out? Like, sorry, honey. Just throwing you under the bus tonight. Yeah, that's interesting. But they're on a playground, and then there's a spirit ghost. There's a spirit ghost.
A spirit ghost. They sensed it was a child. They also sensed it was a girl. And they all had that feeling. And they packed up and left.
Did they?
Mm-hmm.
But weren't they on a ghost hunt to find ghosts? Well, and then a ghost shows up, and they're like, oh my God.
They were kids themselves.
Oh, wow.
So, they just, it was time to leave. They also went looking for...
Little Boy Blue.
Little Boy Blue shows himself. Now, there have been several reports of this, but shows himself on the road. It's Kent Road, I think. But along that road as a blue orb. So
Blake is out.
Other
I can't
dog.
even see him. He's just like a puddle of a puddle of black fur in that bed. It's out.
So and they will say that the blue orb will slowly appear and start slowly coming towards
Like
them.
a spook light.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly, like a
blue
spook light.
light.
That's what I was thinking the entire time he was telling me the story. So people have reported, stopping their cars. You have to go at a certain time and stopping their cars and then waiting for the blue light to show up. Of course, most of the time it doesn't. Sometimes it does. And then their cars won't start. A lot of reports were saying their car didn't start. But again, I think we talked about this at the Catman Cemetery, where people are just like,
which episode of the Catman Cemetery?
The last one, where people are so like frantic that they flood their cars. But there were several reports of their cars not starting. But this blue light would just come towards them, and so Brent and his friends went out, and they'd gone out several times to do these investigations on Little Boy Blue and never seen anything. But this one night, there is a house out there, and they snuck in the woods, I guess, behind this house. And there was a porch light on. It was like a yellow porch light. So they were down there doing their thing and joking around, waiting, are we going to see an orb tonight? And then Brent said it was late at night. And Brent said that he looked up and he saw the yellow porch light. And then all of a sudden he saw a blue orb come out of the porch light and kind of hover. And then it slowly started coming towards them. And he pointed it out to his friends. And it got so close to them that finally, they were like, okay, that's enough. And they took off running.
Oh my god!
But it's weird that this light, this blue light, doesn't just, like on Ghost Adventures and stuff. It like you see this orb shooting, and it shoots away.
This one had like a path.
And it's almost like it was coming towards them. In my mind, I'm like, so what would happen if it reached you?
Yeah, what? Why didn't you stay put?
Well, I kind of like him, so I'm happy he didn't.
Why didn't you stay put so you had a better story for us?
No.
We want an ending.
No. No, I like him, so I don't want to find out that something bad would have happened.
No, I don't want anything bad happening to anybody that does paranormal investigations.
Okay.
Oh no.
This is the one that gave me the heebie-jeebies, and that's why I blessed this room.
Okay.
And we say the St. Michael prayer. So, this is a story that my friend Lauren, shout out to you, Lauren.
Hi, Lauren.
Told me, not a personal story, but a friend had told her.
Okay.
While he and his wife were visiting her and her husband in their apartment. Okay. So this friend is in Lauren's apartment. All right. And we'll call the friend Nick. All right. Nick, when he was a little boy, he lived in a village in Puerto Rico. And it was a smaller village. And then when he was around the age of 6 or 7, I'm not clear on that one, just as Nick would fall asleep, and this is like that half, when you wake up, it's a half sleep, half awake, but it's also when you fall asleep. It's just
You're
like
just drifting there. Yeah.
Drifting.
Yeah.
He initially saw the shape of a small boy at the foot of his bed. And then he just kind of be freaked out and roll over and turn away from it. And then it was gone. But this...
Oh, she'd be sorry.
But this continued.
Okay.
So, it progressed. And when I say continued, it would show up maybe 2-3 times a week. Okay. And this went on for months, several months. So, but progressively, the spirit would form So it was a form of a boy, and then it was an actual little boy standing there. And then it was an actual little boy talking to Nick and saying,
Did Nick talk back?
No. He was scared to
just
death.
lie there or just look at the
just
little
like
boy?
what? And the little boy was, come play with me.
Oh.
Come play with me. And Nick would just like shake his head and hide under the covers, you know, and he'd tell his parents, and they're like, no, you're just dreaming. These are nightmares. You know, just think happy thoughts and make it go away. This isn't true.
I tell my kids all the time. Yeah.
You're just dreaming. And so, okay, fine. So then the little boy would just insist, come play with me. Come play with me. We'll go out and play. Come play with me. And of course, this progressed. And then the little boy, one night, when Nick turned around, shook his head and turned back, the little boy said, he won't like this. Then it started progressing to be a lot more physical. So the little boy would ask, and he'd say no, and then he'd feel a pressure on his body pushing him into the bed. One night it got so bad that he screamed for his mother. Now his mother this whole time is like, he's dreaming, he's having nightmares, you know. But she walked into the room. She saw her son's little body being pressed into the bed.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, by an invisible force, and the bed moving violently up and down. So, you know, I don't know what she did or how she ended it, but it ended abruptly. She grabbed Nick, of course, took him out of the room, and then a group of women from the village, and Lauren was not sure who they were exactly, but they came, and maybe they had sage with them. They were going to smudge, you know, the room. I don't know, but they came and they were talking to Nick, and he was explaining to them what happened and describing the little boy, and then one of the women pulled out a picture.
Oh gosh, I love it when there's pictures.
And she's like, does this look anything like the little boy? And Nick said, yeah, that's him. That's him.
Oh God.
And she then told his mother, this little boy drowned here in this house in the pool in the backyard. The pool was still there. And she said, we never were quite happy that it was an accident. We were never quite happy with that. It was very suspicious. He was a strong swimmer, and, you know, it's just really weird that he would have drowned by himself. So then I don't know if it was a priest or a pastor or somebody from the town, he came and he blessed the house, and he felt a very heavy presence. And he gave Nick a necklace with a cross or a crucifix. Lauren wasn't sure. And he said, never take this off. Never take this off. It will protect you. Because it had been blessed. They moved, of course.
Good. Yeah.
The heck out of there, and they actually moved to the United States.
Oh, well, they really moved the heck out of there.
They moved to the United States, where Nick continued growing up, and then Lauren met him through the theater, I guess. But he was in his 20s, and he and a group of friends decided, wouldn't it be cool to go to, I guess there was a fair or something going on, to go down there, and there was a palm reader. And
love it.
Let's go do this. So they walked into this palm reader. They had their palms read, and it was his turn. And he walked there, and she grabbed, of course, looked at his palm. The minute she looked at his palm, she tossed his hand and said, you have to leave. You have to leave now. get out of here. I want no part of this. There is an evil, dark spirit outside of you, and I don't want anything to do with it. You have to leave. You have to leave.
She probably does that to like every fifth person that comes in. Right?
I don't know. I mean, let me find. I've been telling you this.
I don't know, but let me find the source here.
She had seen something dark and didn't want a part of it. Nick has never, ever taken that necklace off.
Oh, it's still on?
It is still on him. He does not, for any reason whatsoever. I guess he was in a show. They asked him to take it off, and he was like, nope, nope, nope. He refuses to take that off.
It's probably really rusted.
Well, not if it's a good sterling, you know.
What was that?
Silver.
Sterling?
Sterling.
Good sterling silver.
Yeah. I'm from New York now. Okay.
A baby from New York. Sterling silver?
So like there's this darkness or something that can't get into him.
Good.
But
I'd keep that cross on too. I don't care if it's turning me green.
Still kind of lingers behind him.
Or so that palm reader says.
So the palm reader says.
I'd be interested if he'd gone to had readings from like a legit person, not just a palm reader at a fair.
I don't know.
Probably every fifth person.
But between
every on the hour,
the pastor or the priest telling him there's a dark force basically connected to him. Where this
I am not. I'm not diminishing any of that story. You know, I'm not at all.
And he says he has not really felt anything because he's wearing the cross. And his wife says that nothing has really happened. But then they left. My friend Lauren is a sensitive herself, and she's like, "Did he just tell us there's a demon around him?"
Did he just tell me that I need to go sage, apparently?
That's what she did.
Oh, he did too.
She said, I spent a long time praying, and then I started saging the apartment.
Yeah.
And her husband's like, what are you doing?
I would have had the same idea.
She's like,
her husband too? Man, what is it with our husbands?
She's like, he had a demon behind him.
He just literally told you the story. Were you awake, or did you fall asleep like Alex?
She's like, why did he... He's not coming here anymore.
Oh.
We're going to his house.
The palm reader kicks him out of the tent. Why did we let him stay in our house?
So, yeah, this totally messed with Lauren.
Oh, man. Yeah.
That's when you have somebody saying, and this is the cross, and, you know, I will never...
And it, like, is crumbled as he just...
I will never take this off. That's
a solid metal, though, I will say. Or wood. That's pretty solid. That or he doesn't shower.
No, it's probably metal. And you know. All right. Now, this is one that I got off of Reddit.
Oh.
So we know that.
So this is just for spooky season.
Yeah.
Shits and giggles in spooky season.
Yeah, this is a Reddit user, Worcester Street. And this is a story about losing track of time on a continental flight.
Oh, I don't like anything about just that title. Okay.
I've been flying for about 30 hours, and the flight attendants won't stop crying.
Is this like a creepypasta, or is this a real story? Or we don't know?
30 hours ago, I hopped on a late night flight from New York heading to Los Angeles.
She doesn't answer me.
After boarding, I saw that I had an entire row to myself.
Nice.
Take off passed without incident. As soon as I was stretched out for a nap across the row. I slept for a few hours. I don't know how long. But I woke up to some severe turbulence. It's possible that the lights in the cabin went out for a moment, but I was so disoriented that it's hard to say. I checked my phone to see that it was 4:03 a.m., which I figured gave me about an hour until we landed. When I looked out my window, I was shocked to see nothing but wide open ocean.
Wait. That doesn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he said he was disoriented. So.
My jaw dropped. There's obviously no ocean between New York and Los Angeles.
No.
I hit the button to call the flight attendant and spent the next few minutes racking my brain for a lake that could have been possible and big enough to explain what I was seeing. I jumped when the attendant flipped off the light. She was, I don't know why she flipped it off. Oh, flight attendant light.
I'll let you catch up.
She was grinning from ear to ear, and tears were pouring down her cheeks.
Okay, that's scary.
I know. How can I help you, sir? She asked. I froze for a moment at her reaction before deciding to just ask my question. Where are we? Why does it look like we're flying over an ocean? She wiped her cheeks to clear the tears, still grinning widely. Sir, we'll be landing in about an hour. Okay, thank you, I said. After she left, I checked the clock on my phone again. 4:03 a.m.
What was the time before? I forgot. At me. Same time?
4:03.
Oh. I wasn't paying attention.
It hadn't changed. I had to have been waiting with my call light on for at least 5 minutes.
The crying, smiling lady was there for longer than a minute.
How was it possible it hadn't changed?
Oh, God.
I opened up my laptop and saw it too displayed 4:03 a.m.
Okay.
I pulled out my phone, started a stopwatch in the app, and spent the next 2 hours looking back and forth between the clocks, waiting for them to change. They never did. I tapped the shoulder of an older woman sitting in the row ahead of me. She looked back, an annoyed expression across her face.
When you're on a plane, you don't want to be bothered by anybody.
Yes, she said, when she asked.
Was she smiling and crying too?
Nope. Do you know how long until we land? I asked. She narrowed her eyes. Well, that flight attendant said it would be about an hour. I shook my head in confusion. That flight attendant, we talked almost 2 hours ago. We should have landed already. She stared at me as if I was crazy. I was going to continue trying to convince her, but I felt a hand on my shoulder. I spun to see a male flight attendant, grinning down at me, tears pinging off his cheeks onto my shoulder. Sir, I'm going to ask you to calm down. I'll be calling the captain, he said with a
Please call the captain so they can get the hell off of here.
On his face. I told him that wouldn't be necessary and sat back. He removed his hand and stepped away. The flight attendants continued to stop by every few hours, offering meals. My stopwatch continued to tick up and is now telling me that I've been on this plane for more than 30 hours. I've explored all of coach and tried talking to some of the other passengers, but they've all told me they're expecting to land in an hour or so. Around 3 hours ago, I tried getting into first class. I made it past the curtain, but was escorted back by 2 grinning flight attendants. Their grip on my arms were like iron. Sir, the seatbelt is on.
But sitting on those seats for that long, that'd be hell in itself.
Please remain in your seat with your buckle fastened. We'll be landing in about an hour. I'd just about given up hope when a woman came down the aisle, dressed in a business suit. She didn't look at me or slow down, but she dropped a piece of paper onto my tray as she made her way to the bathrooms at the back of the plane. I shot a look around before unrolling it. It said, quote, "Are you stuck too?" I pulled out a pen and wrote, "Yes, it's been 30 hours." I folded the scrap of paper up and set it on the tray closest to the aisle. She left the bathroom and picked it up as she passed. It's been 20 minutes since then. I don't know why, but I don't think the flight attendants would like it if they knew we were talking. It doesn't matter. I have to do something. I'll update you all with whatever happens next.
And that was it? And that person never wrote again to Reddit?
You're still flying.
Oh. When did they post that? Like 4 years ago?
Yeah, probably.
Oh, that's scary. Oh. Happy Halloween!
So that, like, the thing that really scared you was the plane thing.
Yeah. Being stuck on a plane would be so scary.
Or the demon thing really kind of scared me.
No, the thing that scared me was a smiling, crying person. Crying, smiling person.
On an airplane.
But you know what's interesting is that how we started the podcast was her choking, smiling, and crying. See, it all comes full circle with us. Always. Always and forever. Okay. Well, Mom, I mean, do you want to finish your shot? Well, I hope everybody has a safe and happy Halloween. Yeah, resources for this episode. Go watch the movie Halloween. But resources are going to be on our website, killerhangoverpodcast.com. You'll also find links to all of our social media and where to listen and joining our Patreon on our website. Go check it out for Mom. She works so hard on her website. Yeah, so thanks for watching and listening. Anything you want to add, Mom?
No, it was fun.
It was fun. It was a good one, Mom.
It was fun.
Cheers, Mama.
Cheers. Happy Halloween. I love you, kid.